Good afternoon. Our mission at Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And that's where Microsoft Elevate comes in. For organizations that are mission-based organizations, for the last probably 7, 8 years, you've had an opportunity to work with Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. This year, we announced Microsoft Elevate. So if you work with the TSI folks, including myself, obviously nothing's changed. But the Microsoft Elevate is beyond an organization. It's a promise and a commitment to bring the power of AI to those communities and organizations and educational institutions that are serving the communities worldwide. Our team does this by delivering technology support for schools, nonprofits, community colleges, and IGO organizations. But the only way the technology can enable change for these organizations is people knowing how to use it. For that reason, Microsoft Elevate also introduced this skilling component. So our team is skilling the communities, and we have committed and will continue investing in skilling across the board, from skilling nonprofits, communities, educational institutions, and workforce. Let's talk about nonprofits and data, and how the nonprofit leaders are using data. We've been talking to nonprofit leaders for years, and also talking to the industry analysts that are surveying nonprofit leaders and nonprofit organizations and program managers. And what we've learned is over 80% of nonprofits are not fully utilizing their data to build a strategy and make informed decisions. There's so many examples like COVID, or government funding changes, or even like donor behavior changes, that nonprofit organizations are not ready to react and respond quickly. Now, you guys probably heard a lot about AI this week. The potential impact of AI transformation is huge. But what we've learned in the nonprofit is we need to realize also that it all depends on the data state and readiness of the data for the AI. And there's several challenges of the data state, in the data state of nonprofits that we've observed is having a lot of silo data, and the data not being readily accessible across multiple different data sources. Having multiple copies of data and not having a source of truth. And then complex and non-integrated technologies across the board that has been in those nonprofits and enterprise nonprofits for years. On top of this is lack of governance and the risk of losing control of the data, unauthorized access, and the leakage of the data. So to really enable nonprofits to address these challenges, we concluded that the industry needed to rethink the approach to their analytics platforms. And that's why we've seen the wide adoption and interest in technologies such as Microsoft Fabric, Azure Databricks, and many relevant technologies. Now, this is an interesting slide I just want to share. It's kind of cool, too, is AI is not something futuristic. As you all know, it's here, and it's already making an impact. And like many other innovations that we call GPT, if you think about this, printing press was a GPT. It was a general purpose technology. As with every major GPT in the history, AI is going to bring significant economic growth opportunities. IDC has done recent research and reports that talks about AI business spending will have almost $20 trillion of global economic impact. At the same time, organizations that are adopting AI at scale, they're seeing ROI of $3.50 per every dollar they invest in AI at scale within 14 months. In the nonprofit language, this translates to pure mission impact, and how quickly nonprofits can mobilize and use this advantage to advance their mission. Looking also at Microsoft 2025 Trend Index report, we see that frontier firms are already taking shape. And because the barrier of entry is also a little bit lower from the prior technologies, we also see nonprofit leaders are jumping ahead and jumping on this wave. So within the next 2 to 5 years, we're expecting that many nonprofits, if they're not already adopted AI, they will on their way to become a frontier nonprofit firm. Now, you probably heard, like when Judson was talking about frontier firms and many others, there's also the same aspects of frontier nonprofit firm within the nonprofit space. So there's 4 pillars. Enriching the staff experience and making sure that the staff are empowered to use of AI agents and AI assistants to do their job better, faster. And at the same time, the programs and initiatives that the nonprofits are offering also become more modernized and transformed by streamlining those delivery and understanding how to design new programs that resonates with the constituents of the nonprofits, and at the same time, engaging with supporters and donors. This is all about the network. So one of the things that we've learned is as nonprofits are becoming more personalized in their communication with nonprofits and donors, they get better results. And this is where AI has been extremely helpful and within the outreach of these nonprofits. Now, one of the other things is very similar to all the commercial aspects of nonprofit is running an organization, enterprise nonprofit. It is like running a commercial organization. So they have finance, they have legal, they have contracting, they have many other roles and departments and rooms of the house that any other commercial entity would have. So looking at the operations and transforming the operation, and at the same time, in many cases, even optimizing existing processes is where AI can help, and that's why we've been helping with nonprofits and working and partnering up on that. There are several different examples. We have so many examples of nonprofits have been partnering up with us across the board, some in many pillars of this frontier firm conversation. Example is Mathis here, a German nonprofit, and these, by the way, these are all publicly available. You can look at Microsoft case studies and online. Mathis here is a German nonprofit operating in 30 different countries. What they've done is they've adopted Microsoft 365 Copilot, and they've started seeing a lot better experience within their staff and volunteers. And what they've done is looking at optimizing communications, use of Microsoft 365, collaborating better, and also offloading some of the repetitive tasks to the AI agents and the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Opportunity International is another example. As you guys, I'm not sure if you know who they are, but as you can imagine from the name is they provide opportunities for people that live in extreme poverty and try to pave a path out of the poverty for them. The use case that we collaborated and partnered up with Opportunity International was in Malawi with the farmers. One of the things that they wanted to do is make sure the farmers have access to all the data they needed to be successful in their farming and also have relevant access from Department of Agriculture and grounding into other data sources, including weather patterns. That's what we did with implemented an Azure AI-based chatbot that is grounded in the data that I was talking about. And now farmers can have access to those through voice or text anytime they want. And at the same time, Opportunity International can also onboard mentor farmers that are coming on board to help those farmers with becoming successful and finding their path out of poverty. Worldfish in Canada picked up Microsoft Dynamics 365 Power Platform Azure AI to build their Real Impact 360 platform. What this platform does is looking across all their programs, getting better insight and analytics off of their programs, and then communicating in a more personalized manner with their donors, building trust and transparency, and then at the same time, operating in the second pillar is getting the feedback through the AI insights. They can redesign the next program better, more efficient, and absolutely better than what they've done in the past. And this is all from the insight that comes out of that. IFRC, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescents, they are servicing over 200 different societies across many different communities, thousands of different communities, mainly focused on disaster response and humanitarian aid. One of the things that they had is they were bogged down by a lot of internal processes and tech debt that was holding them back to become could respond faster and better. What we've done is we partnered up with them through adoption of Microsoft Azure and Microsoft 365 and AI agents and Copilot. And they've started looking at their processes from IT all the way to other departments, and that has helped them become more agile. And they're on their path on more transformation as now they have access to the technology. So by now, I think you guys are probably even tired of hearing about AI agents. But this is real, right? So like when we're looking at what we're seeing in the nonprofit, there's a spectrum from the simple to more advanced, and looking at the generation aspects of AI, and looking at more of a RAG and retrieval, going to the action-based agents that can actually take automated actions and replace repetitive tasks for users. All of this is possible because automation has evolved. We started with robotic process automation. And robotic process automation is great. It could be rigid, but it's still an important part of looking at streaming structured workflows. Then it came to chatbots. And chatbots is, they have their own purpose. They're just looking at interacting with humans and helping answering questions and maybe guiding users through simple processes. What we wanted to do is to maybe just like looking at a little bit more of maybe do some of the tasks. And that's where AI agents comes in, and they can take actions and begin offload some of the tasks. These agents can handle workflows that aren't always clear-cut. So that's the difference between the RPA and the AI agents. And then humans can focus on more of higher value work and setting the strategy and guiding those agents or setting the parameters for the agents. And finally, we have multi-agent systems. And these are multiple agents working together to solve complex tasks. They coordinate, they interact, they know when to flag the humans for interaction or input, and making it really possible for nonprofits to scale their operations entirely in new ways. You will see an example of this shortly. And then, the AI, the brilliance of AI differentiation that we're talking about comes from connecting the agents, connecting the co-pilot and personal assistant, and the ambitions of the humans to further innovate. So we're looking at the innovation. There are like 3 phases. And these 3 phases are basically you have your own AI assistant, then you have human-led agents that are doing some of the work, and you're offloading some of that task, and they go do it. And then human-led agent-operated tasks. Now, what we're looking at the nonprofits and what we're working with several different nonprofits is this is not a linear or sequential task. It's more of, what you need to do is more of, hey, you can operate in many of these things. Depends on your needs and business needs, and depends on which room of the house we're working on, and talking to. So we've seen many nonprofits that operate in one or multiple of these phases at the same time. So you don't look and say, hey, I need to deploy Copilot first before I can install an agent or bring up a new agent. So that definitely, there's no dependency on these. It would help when people are feeling comfortable with AI assistant and Copilot to start interacting with agents. Now, I've had the pleasure of serving big brothers, big sisters of Puget Sound on their board of directors for the last couple of years. And I want to share a story from our CEO, Alonda Williams, and then talk about what we've done there. So not too long ago, Alonda and her husband They were attending one of our community events, and they sat beside the weary mother of a 10-year-old boy named Miles. Her eyes welled up with tears as she shared the weight of her struggles, long nights, endless bills, and the constant worry of her son, Miles, and Miles' future at the same time. She looked at them and said desperately, "My son Miles has been on your wait list for quite a while. He needs a strong male role model. His dad is not in our lives. And I think a big brother would help give them some guidance and support. I don't think, and I don't know what to do." So every day Miles remains on the wait list and not matched with a mentor is a day missed with his guidance and support, access that he desperately needs. At Big Brothers Big Sisters of Puget Sound, we connect young people with adult mentors who help change the trajectory of their future and their lives. Every year, we match about 1,000 youth with caring mentors, helping them navigate the school, navigate friendship, and also their futures. And it really works. And I'm not sure how many of you have had experiences with mentorship in your lives. It truly works. It doesn't matter if it's through an organization or it's through friends. And some of us, we had a dad, or we had a big brother, or we had somebody who's been our mentor. The data really shows that kids who are being mentored do better in school, stay out of trouble, have improved mental health. And long term, they earn more compared to the kids that didn't have mentors. Further mentoring helps that create social capital, increasing their networks. And we all know when you have a larger network, there's opportunity that comes out of that. One of the reasons we're all here at Ignite is our network. So too many kids like Miles are stuck waiting. They're waiting for two reasons. We often don't have enough mentors, which is why we're always recruiting. I've successfully recruited my friend James, that's sitting right there as a big brother. And all the matching process that happens, it's really complicated and it's very delicate. We have to make sure every child is connected with the absolutely right mentor. It's both complex and critical. And historically, this process has been manual and time-consuming. Instead of relying on manual, often time-consuming, month-long process of matching, we've put our heads together when we started building an AI match recommendation engine. In partnership with Microsoft Elevate and our friends over KPMG, this AI-driven system built by Microsoft Fabric using Copilot can now analyze mentor and mentee applications, detect key compatibility factors, and suggest optimal mentor-mentee pairing within minutes. So we went from weeks and months because somebody had to look at all of these and just keep making sense of applications and people. Now the system creates high-quality pairs and definitely helps. So the result has been absolutely fantastic. So we're seeing high-quality matches in record times. However, the match specialists that we have, the humans sitting and looking at that, they are fully in charge. They make the final decision, and they provide feedback to the AI engine. At the same time, as you can imagine, when we go back to the slide I had about the 4 pillars of frontier nonprofit firm, we are seeing better employee experience. So all the match specialists and folks that are interacting with the system, they're more happy because they don't have to do a lot of manual processes, and they can actually see technology at work. This is a solution architecture diagram that courtesy of my friends at KPMG and in partnership with them. As you can see, we've implemented Microsoft Fabric that plugs into the CRM system and gets data from a few other sources. It does a great job of transforming pipelines and adding Azure ML and AI capabilities with Azure OpenAI, and then also uses Power Platform to interact with the users and matches specialists. At the end, it also can write back into the CRM system and make sure that the loop is closed. Let's talk about phase 3 adopters and folks that are, I promise that we'll talk about the multi-agent system. So let's take a look at another example. That example that is a multi-agent system, its foundations in nonprofits. And I'm not sure how many of you know what foundations do and who they are. I had my friend Colin Corbin was presenting on Tuesday with the CIO of Gates Foundation, Bill Gates. And one of the things that they do on a daily basis is grant management. Now, if you're a nonprofit that's on the other side is receiving end of the grant, you have to write a grant and respond to a grant, right? So, but the foundations are always doing grants, so that they do a lot of grant management. We found that the process of grant management is often manual, very fragmented, can't be scaled, and processes like initial inquiry, proposal review, document review, grant approvals itself, process monitoring, even like looking at things like compliance management and conflict of interest is always slow, subject to error, and they don't even have real-time insight in many cases. And the humans are really being bogged down with those repetitive tasks that are happening. There's always risk too, right? So like risk of not detecting any conflict of interest and compliance and others, especially if there's other regulatory compliance is needed within the geography that the grant is being issued. This view that you see on the slide is a simplified view of a grant management process. Even if it's in simplified view, it is very complicated. Now, several foundations since last year started working with us and adopting multi-agent systems based on Microsoft Foundry and Microsoft 365 Copilot that aims to automate and streamline these complex processes, providing personalized real-time while keeping humans in the loop. So the journey is becoming more streamlined, and humans are in the loop. They're providing feedback and and adding strategy and looking at what's happening across the board. But the agents are the ones that are doing the work in many aspects of grant management process. So like, let's say when the proposal comes in, scoring proposals, some of that is pretty straightforward. Some of that could be a little bit different, but having agents look at those and help with customizing the journey and looking at the risk, any risk is flagged. I've had many other examples. We'll talk about that in a second. But then detecting any type of trends and reporting, they're all being handled by agents. And the humans are setting the overall strategy. If there's anything borderline, they definitely take over. If there's anything, one-off, exceptions is needed, the humans are signing off on that. And at the end, they're in charge and in power of final approval or rejection of the process. So this is something that I've seen has been super helpful. One of the things that I'd ask the nonprofit leaders to think about, you probably have many other services or processes within the nonprofit that are similar. Because there's different key stakeholders have to collaborate and work together. Like examples that I've seen recently, and I was talking to one of you at the booth yesterday, is interactions between contract management, legal, and finance. So every nonprofit has these. And a lot of times, everything's waiting for one person because legal is trying to review and finance didn't flag a risk, and this causes a lot of back and forth and manual processes. A lot of these through agents could be shortened, the time it takes, and also streamlined. Let's take a look at
Meet Megan.
Let's take a look at the foundation use case in action.
Meet Megan Bowen, a program officer at Contoso Trust, a philanthropic foundation. Today, she's reviewing a grant proposal submitted by Healthcare for All, an NGO and nonprofit seeking $300,000 to launch a solar-powered healthcare initiative in rural Kenya. Megan starts by looking over the project scope, which includes details about the project, budget, timeline, risks, and more. In order to help make an accurate assessment, Megan will upload the project scope documentation to her foundation's Grant Evaluation Dashboard, a powerful tool powered by multi-agent AI system running on Azure AI Foundry. Since this evaluation is still in its initial inquiry stage, she doesn't make any changes, but she can change the selected stage if necessary. Megan can also directly input the project scope into the text input field. Since she already has the project scope as a PDF, she simply uploads it. Once submitted, the dashboard springs into action. Visually, this is represented by an orchestrator agent and 3 other agents working in tandem. In reality, behind the scenes, more than 10 specialized AI agents, coordinated by an orchestration agent, begin analyzing the proposal in parallel. These agents are built on GPT-4o Mini, though the system can tap into over 1,800 different AI models available in Azure AI Foundry. Within a few moments, the evaluation is complete. A green notification appears on Megan's screen, signaling that the analysis is ready. Megan scrolls down to the project approval summary to review. Unfortunately, the project is not approved yet. The dashboard has flagged several concerns. To get more insights, Megan dives into the evaluation summary, where she sees initial feedback from each agent. One major red flag is a conflict of interest. The CEO of Healthcare for All also owns the company supplying the solar panels. This dual role raises ethical concerns, especially around procurement transparency. The decision support agent does make some recommendations that the nonprofit can implement, including ways to mitigate any conflict of interest and risk management. Megan also reviews the project timeline, a 24-month delivery window, and the impact distribution across agents. While 4 agents support the project, 1 remains neutral and 1 flags a high-risk concern related to governance. With this insight, Megan knows her next steps. She'll reach out to the NGO to request clarification and additional documentation. The dashboard has done its job, surfacing risk, accelerating due diligence, and empowering Megan to make informed, ethical funding decisions.
So this was done before everything was announced this week. So obviously, we're super excited that Microsoft Foundry and Fabric IQ and many other components that were announced this week would supercharge the solution that we've been working on and could be reused in other places when we put that in the context. So the other component, the other aspects of the design that we have in many of these cases it's almost like a pancake layers and plug and play. So as technology is evolving and as we're seeing a lot of new models come out or new technologies coming in, either plugging into Fabric or outside in Microsoft Foundry, we're able to quickly switch those and swap them. So that way your solution stays up to date and using the latest, greatest without rewriting or recreating the entire solution. This is really cool because, like for example, in Microsoft Foundry, or formerly known as Azure AI Foundry, that's the point. Like you have many different models, and you make a decision on a model, and that might change in the future as the different models come in or model become more efficient. The system does make recommendations and help nonprofits pick the right model based on their use cases, either cost or from efficiency and speed. And things change, and you can keep optimizing and changing those based on your needs and how the technology is evolving across the board. So definitely something that a lot of leaders are talking about, like what happens if I deploy now and the new models come out or the new technology. And this is what we do it in our reference architecture and design models, that making sure that we have plans for those. And as they show up, they could be easily swapped and also like keep optimizing those. The other component of like what we see within the nonprofit is the barrier of entry from finance and being able to adopt these technologies. It is, what we see is much, much lower barrier of entry from the economics point of view. When we're talking about Microsoft Fabric or AI Foundry, it is much cheaper than what it used to be, like building an AI model, or even just using traditional AI in the past in a more on-prem traditional fashion. This is a lot better and faster and easier, while the cost is also a lot lower. So definitely something that I would highly recommend that if you're interested, we can talk to our partners and our subject matter experts within the Microsoft Elevate team and help you start adopting those. There's definitely an aspect of brainstorming and looking at the innovation and what you want to do and understanding your own processes and start optimizing and streamlining those where it makes sense. And start like looking at your mission and every pillar of what we talked about within this slide is what I'm gonna leave everyone with, right? So think about your nonprofit, think about all of these major component of your organization or folks that you work with, and then see how we can transform those or start your digital transformation across the board for all of that. We do see a ton of opportunities across many different organizations. That is either finance, that is either legal, contracting, programs, and any type of role that you have at the nonprofit. We definitely could think about like how to optimize and adopt AI across the board. So with that, I'm gonna wrap it up and open it up for questions if anyone has questions. And hopefully, like, if you also want to share anything, if you guys are from nonprofit and want to share any experiences. I know Catherine is sitting here, and one of the champions of our Hack for Good last year that are deploying a multi-agent solution for amazing nonprofit called 𝗬𝗲𝗬𝗂. Would love to see if anyone has any questions or want to share anything. Thank you so much for being here today. Any questions?
Any questions? Come on, don't be afraid. No?
For the grant evaluation? Yes, if you want to reach out to us, we can share that. Absolutely, yes. It's very simple. Again, just like we have all of that. And this is a nice thing about being in the nonprofit space is a lot of nonprofits are not really competing. They're into sharing. If somebody's innovating somewhere, they're not having any issue sharing with others. But in general, we also create reference architecture that anyone can use and customize based on their needs. But if you want to reach out to me or my friend James there, we're more than happy to share that and make sure that you guys have it. Anyone else? Oh, yes.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for speaking to us today.
Of course.
If someone were looking to start a nonprofit in the next few years, how would you recommend starting with AI and making sure that it's kind of at the root of the nonprofit so that efficiency and productivity is starting with the nonprofit?
Great question. So nonprofits that are starting, have been starting for the past few years, I call them born in the cloud. So they basically have everything in the cloud, right? So they use all the cloud services and SaaS solutions and others. So the nonprofits that are starting from now, I think they would be native AI born, the same way that if any kids are born right now, they're so natural to them using AI and AI solutions and talking to the systems without knowing what's happening, right? So the recommendation would be looking at solutions that have AI integrated and making sure that their staff and processes, they're all AI, that has some level of AI. And again, just in many cases, AI can't solve everything, right? So it's just you have to be smart about it. But let's say if you have a staff member, they should definitely have something like Copilot as their assistant, right? It really makes our lives easier. I personally did today, I was sending an email, and I was replying to an email, and somebody said, hey, like we need to meet. And I asked Copilot in Outlook, while I'm just preparing for the slides and I'm doing all the other stuff, I said, hey, look at my calendar next week, see which day is open, respond to Samantha, and say, hey, here's the open slots, and thank you so much for all those things. And it did, and it said, put it in table format. It sends out, and while I was like miking up, Samantha sent the calendar schedule, and based on that. So like, again, just like a lot of things, it becomes natural, so you don't really have to think about it, and just work with your AI agents and assistants. And think about like processes, and this is actually a blessing. If you start a nonprofit right now, instead of dealing with a lot of stuff that is tech debt and coming from years of, like I see nonprofits that's been there for like 30, 40 years, and every person that showed up, they brought a new application. None of the apps store worked with each other. I was talking to a nonprofit leader, and they have literally a CRM system that does not have APIs. So that's like, I was like, I can't believe like they don't have an API, so they can't really talk to it, right? So the blessing is if you're just doing right now, you make sure that your system is AI enabled and you can use AI in it.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? I think there's
James has a question.
right there.
You? Who had?
The gentleman. Oh,
We'll go to you first.
Okay. Well, loud. How can you give recommendations for nonprofits that have been around for a long time?
yes.
That have people that are resistant to adopting newer technologies that could streamline processes better, but are hesitant to do so from various history, and how to convince those people that using at least some of the capabilities of AI can be useful.
It really depends on the role of those people, right? So how critical their role is and how influential they are, right? So one of the things that we've seen in nonprofits that have leaderships that are practicing AI themselves and understand the value of AI, those organizations are a lot more successful. Now, to be very frank, I've been here at Microsoft for 20 years, and I've been around the block of like going from on-prem to fully on-prem to all of these trends that's been out there with the IT the last 20-something years, right? There's always somebody who just doesn't want change. And it all depends on like, hey, like how much their skills are transferable or not, right? But in general, nonprofits, I really like, I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits, and the nonprofits that are not adapting and picking up the technology in the next few years, they probably won't be relevant, right? Even the government is asking some of the nonprofits in return to their grant they're receiving, they have to make sure they're modernized. Like, I had a customer that was really old, and they were sitting on-prem, and they had a lot of on-prem assets. And the government said, your next grant, you're not getting it unless you are in the cloud, right? So they're basically scrambling, trying to move. So there would be some forcing function at some point, but like in general, what we've seen is training and showing people how AI works. A lot of times it comes like our leaders at Microsoft sends weekly bites of, hey, this prompt helped me do this, right? It's like, and then we also try to be curious and do that. In many cases, showing people how to do their job faster by using the AI assistant or any AI agents, they would change their mind. Sometimes it's just like you have to iterate a couple of times. James, you had a question?
Not so much a question, just a couple things to add.
Of course.
Elevate does have a skilling program, so there's potential to connect with that and maybe leverage that to educate your users a little bit about how to use AI effectively. The other thing I wanted to add is Elevate does have an engineering team that recently did a private preview of a nonprofit data solution accelerator. They
Yes.
mainly did it with partners to evaluate it and provide feedback, but a couple of customers as well. It's built on top of Microsoft Fabric, which has lots of AI capabilities built in. It uses the Salesforce Nonprofit Solution Pack connector and ingests that data, does transformation and enrichment, so it goes through the medallion architecture, and they built a semantic model and Power BI reports on top of it that you can use to interact with data about your constituents, donors, propensity to donate, et cetera. The public preview is scheduled to be released currently, I believe, the first week of December, and it will have more connectors built in. They designed the schema such that with other integrations, and if you have data about the same constituent, for example, in multiple systems, it'll map that together and reconcile those records. And part of the reason they led with partners with the evaluation is so that they can help with those integrations if you have multiple systems. Mark mentioned a CRM with no APIs. There is a way to get that data in, just not through an API, but the capabilities in Fabric, there's almost no way you can't get to data somehow. So, but if that sounds interesting, connect with us and watch for the public preview in a few weeks.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like through Fabric and Fabric IQ, one of the things that we realize is just like if you have old systems or old databases, and sometimes it's really hard to consolidate the data state, Fabric has several capabilities of mirroring and shortcuts and other things that you really don't have to move the data, but you can still tap into the real-time data and bring it in, overlay that with other data sources and make sense and create insights. And at the same time, add the AI functionality. As you saw that in the Big Brothers Big Sisters, we use Azure ML and the Gen AI to empower and build the AI matching recommendation engine.
The others.
Well, if there's no other questions, I'll give you guys 2 minutes back. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the show, and see you later.